The simple form of this file will be posted on my Gumroad. More complete animation form will be posted on my Patreon. That's where we left with last time. If you didn't watch the previous video, I recommend you watch the first video and come back. Now we are going to make this animation that you see in the rendering video. First, we need to create a cube that is going to cut our model. Create a cube. Make sure the cube that is big enough to cover all your model, and change the viewport display from here to wire. So this case we can see what is inside. Just make it big enough to cover all the model, and we can put it somewhere around here to cut like a half of the face. Then we click on the model, create a Boolean modifier. Put it right above all the geometry node modifier. If you are using a human model, put it after the armature and before the geometry node modifier. So let's pick this cube. So now we have cut our model, and set this Boolean modifier to be fast first. So when we drag this cube, we just like cutting this model. You see here, sometimes you might find this bug, not cut properly. In this case, you can switch to exact and make sure you have clicked both of these options. You will fix that, but it will be quite slow, so only when you rendering you using this. For testing, we use fast. We can ignore that for this moment. Keep dragging this cube. That's what we want. So we can leave like this. Now we want to make part close to this edge that being cut have stronger distortion. So that will be looks like in the rendering. Let's go to our weight geometry node. And we want to make one more vertex group. So let's go to the vertex group and we create one more, name that to be cut. In the weight geometry node, create one more output for cut and select this to be cut. Okay, so now we have this. In the geometry node, we are going to find the distance between this cube and this body. We use a geometry node proximity. We'll drag this cube into this geometry node. Set it to be relative. And drag this cube to be the target. And drag this distance out to this cut. So now we can check in this weight pen mode. Yeah, that's what we want. So you see this area that is close to this cube edge. It will be weaker because the distance is the smallest. The further will be stronger. So I think we need to invert that. Can use a color ramp. We just invert that. So now the closest to the cube will be stronger. That's what we want. And we can frame this. To be cut. Okay, now we can go back to the second geometry node for offset. So now we are in the offset geometry node and we have to bring this cut in. So create this new input, set it to be cut, and here also get this cut. Close the weight pen, and we can just duplicate this second group of this node tree. Let's try to add them together using vector math, and we just add them together. Because of this value is pretty small, so let's try that it to be bigger. So now we see it's pushed in. Let's change this scale to be minus, so it will be pushed out. The back is pushing out, and we can change this a little bit. Somewhere around here is what we want. So we focus on this top area. This is what is the most important part, because the rest of will be weaker later. So the top looks kind of okay. So now we are going to use this cut to weaken this further part. Do that by using another scale. And we use this cut. The further part will be weakened. And we can use another color ramp, or we can use a float curve. Let's try using float curve. And if we drag this, so if we drag it like this, we can get what we want. Just have to be gentle for the value. Or if you like, you can use color ramp. Both work. So let's put it like somewhere. Duplicate this. Maybe it looks more clean. If you don't like the result that you just got, we can change this noise texture. I think now we only need one noise texture. And let's just change this value little. We can change the W to get a different result that we want. Try to mill this first to see how big actually we want. Maybe that is too much for the overload, so maybe we can weaken this to be 0.7. That's good enough. Now we can try to drag this cube, see the result. I think now it looks almost perfect. Let's try to close this wireframe. So we can rename this to be cut, and this to be side, and this to be back, and this to be front. So now we actually got it. If you feel it's a little bit slow, your computer, you can turn off this remesh for when you are tweaking. It looks almost identical to be when you turn on, just you lost some of the 3D scan style, so it's okay. When you rendering, you can turn that on. So in this case, when we drag these things, will be much smoother. And there is some detail we can still do. We can use this cut distance to drive the animation of this W. Let's try to just drag that in first to the W. And if we drag this cube, you can see the difference. If you see this part, it's still moving whenever it's close to the cut. So you can still got some movement after the cut, and slowly it will be like stop. It's kind of like the printing paste is being cooled down and it stop moving. And when it close to the cut, it's still like hot and it will still have some movement. We can use a color ramp to turn it down a little more, so it will not be so much. This should be like a very subtle. Should not be too strong. Yeah, I think now it looks okay. So let's put it like this. And we can use math. Set it to be add. So now we can still control the seed. And if you like it to be like constantly moving, just simply use the scene time. And maybe it needs to be smaller. So use a multiply. 0.1. So when you play, it will still be moving. Maybe have to be even smaller. In this case, when we turn it to be hologram, you can get this always moving edge. It looks more like a hologram. So that's how you animate that. And there is one more style that you can do with this reverse 3D scan. That is, we give a thickness using the solidified modifier to here before the Boolean modifier. So now it got some thickness. So when we cut it, it will be some kind of mode. So you can just tweak the thickness to get some different style. Like for example, if you give a very thin thickness, it will provide some holes on the body. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks like some kind of ancient steel sculpture. And you can try to change different order for this modifier. For example, now it looks like this. Try to drag this weight in front of this solidify, and I can get a result like this. And I think it looks even better because of this push effect. Now it's only happened in this very back. Before I put it this order, it will count this area also as the back. The inside, you see here, it will also calculate that as the back because of this solidified modifier. So that's now a downside of this. It's actually a positive side. Once again, it's showing the power of using geometry node to driven the weight pen. If we draw it by hand, you can never happen like this. It's just not what I'm looking for in this point. So I will still put it just below the armature. Now we make a very basic animation for this cube. Go to the first frame and we drag this all the way down. Just make the feet disappear. And we make a keyframe for this. Press I and location. And go to the last frame. So we show this body. Drag the cube up. And we make another keyframe location. And lower your resolution for testing. Let's try to play that. The printing process is actually happening. And I lower some resolution so it will be faster. If your computer is good enough, you don't have to do that. So next we are going to talk about how to make it to a hologram. Let's create a material for that. Create a new material. And we call that hologram. Go to the last modifier that is called set material and change this to this new material. So now we have this material that we can work on. Set this material blend mode to be alpha enhanced. Okay, now we work with this material. Use a wave texture and we just plug that to the alpha. You can see your mesh is being like transparent. And take a color ramp to make the line stronger. So now we get something looks like that. And set this X to Z. So now we got like this kind of ring. And we bring this emission color to white. So now we can get something glowing. And set the color to be black. So you won't have any color to mix with emission. And let's check the bloom. So if we turn this emission strings, it will glow. Okay, now we got the basic. Let's just turn this scale bigger so the ring looks kind of smaller. I set this sign to be triangle. Line will look thinner, and use another color ramp for the color. So reset that, and this will be any color you like. Maybe I would like to be red this time. And set the color to this emission color. So give some color like that. Then we can turn the background to be black. So this case, you basically got your hologram. So you can tweak some value to get some different result. Maybe you don't want it to be like totally transparent. Maybe that's how you like, with a little bit gradient. Maybe it looks better. Just some detail. You can play around with this wave texture. Maybe you can set this to be ring. You can get some different result like this. Okay, that is the basic idea for this hologram material. And now let's talk about the last things. That's how to apply this setup to other objects. So now we have this setup and we don't want to redo this all the time. It's quite complicated for every time. So if I create like a Suzanne, for example, and let's make the size of this Suzanne relative same as this human. For example, I put it like around this human's head, make it like a relative same size because the size is matter. So I apply the scale. So now I click on Suzanne and I press shift and click on this body. The body have to be the light yellow and the Suzanne have to be the orange. So in this case, I will transfer modifier from this body to Suzanne. I press Ctrl L, choose these copy modifiers. So now the modifier have been transferred to this Suzanne. So let's take a look what is going on. Why it's not quite like what we want is because the Suzanne's face is not enough. So let's use this subdivision modifier, make it higher. So now we have enough of face. One more thing is we don't need armature because the Suzanne didn't have any bones. One last thing is you can see the push effect of this Suzanne. It's not like horizontal. The reason for that is because the origin point of this Suzanne is over here. And the origin point should be in the center. So let's set the origin point of Suzanne to be in the center. Right click and set origin to 3D cursor because the 3D cursor is in the center. So now we have this Suzanne that is looking like a 3D print stuff. Just like really fast, we can do that. And if you bring any like the flower that we made before, you can also do that. Just use the exactly same method. So now you can put this whole object with all this modifier to the assets library. And whenever you want to make this kind of style, just drag this object out from your assets library and you apply this modifier to this new object that you wish to make it like in this style. In this case, you can easily to build anything like that. So thank you for watching these two videos, and I hope you have fun using this method to make some of your own stuff. If you like this video, please consider share the video so more people can join us. Please like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you in the future. Bye bye.